Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. And today we are here with a new series. It's not going to be as much of a progress series or anything like that. It's just going to be a little side series that I like to upload on my channel while I'm doing other things like Noob with a Mill, which you can see me with right now. But this series is going to be called Skilling with Stats, and before we get into it, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Samurai Am. He is a smaller YouTuber with 400 to 500 subs. He used to do Maxing with Math was the name of his series, and he did kind of the same thing that I'm going to be doing here. He's since dropped it off and stopped doing it and hasn't uploaded in a few months. So I reached out to him, asked if he wouldn't mind if I was able to go through and show you guys what he was trying to show to his people. He said that was fine. I'm not going to be copying the things in his video, but I will be using the same idea, which is going to be showing you guys methods as to how you can get 99 in certain skills, showing you guys what the overall amount of time is, how much you have to spend, what all the skill is going to entail, and really just kind of give you guys a bunch of methods to go about getting 99s in skills, and you guys can decide from there which one fits your RuneScape style the best. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get right on into it and kind of give you guys an example of what this series is going to be about. We're going to start with fletching, and we'll move on from there. So if you guys have any other suggestions as far as what skill you'd like to see next, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. But with that being said, let's get right on into it. Alright, so we are going to start with your most standard fletching method. This is probably what most people would end up doing if they didn't know any other fletching methods. This is just your standard way to go about fletching. So as you guys can see, we have up on screen now pretty much every type that you're going to go ahead and do and the levels that you're going to do them from. So arrow shafts from 1 to 5, short bows from 5 to 10, long bows from 10 to 20, etc. As you guys can see, the main thing to note here is that it does take a lot of time. So this is going to be 103.3 hours in total, which is a lot of time compared to the other methods that we'll see, but it will net you profit, which is nice for lower levels, and it isn't click intensive. That's one thing that comes with a lot of fletching methods I'll be talking about. Very click intensive. This is just relax, do it at your own pace, go at your own speed, really. It's just something that is a very relaxed, even though it may seem like a lot of time in total, it doesn't seem like that to the average person if you're doing stuff on the side like watching Netflix and doing whatnot from there. So the reason that this one is viable, I would imagine, is because if you want to actually get a 99 but you don't want to put in the actual physical work of a 99, I know it sounds weird saying physical but work, but all the clicking of darts and stuff does get a bit tedious and could be more enjoyable to some people to just go ahead and do a whole inventory of fletching and then just watch Netflix while they do it. So as you guys can see here, the overall view that we have is 103 hours total and 13.4 mil that is made in profit, which isn't bad as far as profit goes. It will be the second most profitable thing we'll see today. However, obviously the total hours is kind of what weighs it down a little bit. Alright, so from there I'm going to go over, and from here on out it pretty much will be fletching with darts. That's your average GE or bank standing method that you can do, but if you guys would rather do this way faster, we're going to go ahead and start talking about dart making. So as you guys can see, you're going to start off with the same thing. You're going to use arrow shafts, but then you'll progress through the darts. So you'll start with bronze at level 10, you'll then move on to irons at 22, you'll move on to then steels at 37, and mithril darts will be the finale for this example at 52. Alright, so with this method, obviously there will be a lot of clicking, but as you can see with the XP per hour, you can net yourself around a mil XP per hour. This was going off of my clicks, which was averaging 1.5 actual actions of making darts per game tick. So the math that went behind this is that there is 100 game ticks per minute in the game. So from there, you can go ahead and get your hourly game ticks, which would mean that you would have 6,000 game ticks within an hour. Assuming you can get 1.5 darts fletch per game tick, that would mean you'll be getting about 9,000 actions or 90,000 mithril darts fletched, or realistically any dart for that matter. And at mithril darts coming in at 11.2 XP per dart, you end up with, as I said, a mil XP within an hour, which is obviously so much better than you're going to get with the magic bows. It's ridiculous, but it obviously is very click intensive, and another thing that could be the deal breaker for many people is the amount of money lost. So you will end up losing 36 mil, but you end up saving yourself numerous amount of hours, 90 hours-ish in total. So I would say it's definitely worth it, but we'll go over it at the end. So that is it for the mithril darts method. From there, we have adamant darts, and as you guys can see, it looks pretty similar, except for the fact that at the end, you go ahead and add in yourself some adamant darts. So you'll be doing mithril darts until you can do adamant, obviously, which will be at 67. And as talked about before, the EXP per hour will be just absurd, especially now since adamant darts yield 15 XP per dart, and as I said earlier, you'll be getting about 90,000 darts within an hour. So that ends up being 1.3 to 1.4 mil per hour. Obviously, if you can do more darts per hour, that's going to mean more XP. If you can't do as many, that's obviously going to mean a little less, and we'll get into the statistics of that later. But this method ends up being 10 hours to go ahead and get yourself 99, which is insanely fast for a 99 skill, but with all the clicking, it is obviously not something you could go ahead and do in a day or two, I wouldn't say. I'd say this is something that you space out, maybe do like an hour, half an hour a day, just while you're not doing a whole lot and just want to, work on it. I'd say this is something that you would probably be really exhausted with if you try to do this all in one go. So what may be really noticeable about this one is obviously that it is 10 hours, but it is a 62 mil loss, which is absolutely insane. It's just a ton of money, and when you compare it to the magic longbow method and your standard fletching method, you still save 90 hours and you net about a 75 mil loss, which isn't bad considering most people in the game can make probably 700 to 800k GP per hour. So if this sounds like something you'd want to do, then go ahead with that. But now we will get into the last one, and this is something I made a video on before and just kind of wanted to compare it to and see what actually is going to be like the results from what we see here. Alright, and that brings me to fletching broad bolts. So this is something that was very controversial and people got very upset with me in one of my videos previously. I said it was the best method in the game. I guess that maybe that's a little vague. People thought that maybe when I said best method, they meant like fastest method. I think this is the best method all around, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. So, as with the adamant darts, you're going to start off with the same things, except with mithril darts, you're going to stop at 55 and then go to broad bolts. Broad bolts, however, only yield 30 XP per 10 darts made, equaling 3 XP per dart. Obviously, as I said earlier, you can fletch about 90,000 an hour, which would mean that you'd get 270k total EXP within an hour, which isn't too bad at all. It obviously is a step down from adamant darts, but it is still really good. What makes this method so viable is the fact that it actually is profitable. I know that may sound a little weird because you're getting 270k XP in a skill and you're still making profit, which is really good. The profit here, however, is 4 to 5 GP on average, depending on what times you're going to go ahead and buy and sell these. And in the end, that means you'll be making about 19 mil in profit. So as you guys can see in the bottom right, I already said you make 19 mil, and it takes 48 hours. So that obviously is 38 hours more than the adamant darts and 35 hours more than the mithril, but the net profit that you get could definitely be worth it for a lot of people. And we're going to go in and look at that now. Alright, so now on to the overview that I have here. You guys may notice something under regular fletching. I have it's never efficient. As far as like trying to compare these things, you're going to make less money than broad bolts, and it's going to take you 50 to 60 hours more, so that's something that I would never recommend anyone to do. But if you want to do it, just know that isn't the best way by any means of going about it, other than if you just want to AFK. Alright, so from there we have the overall efficiency of adamant darts. In total, you'll be saving yourself 38 hours over the broad bolt method, but you'll be netting a loss of 81 mil. So to make this be an actual viable method, you would have to assume during those hours that you aren't fletching that you'll be able to make 2.13 mil an hour, which is something I guess you could, I mean, if you're a good Zora killer, you could probably make that. But that is something that is probably out of reach of many people in the game, and which would make it then not as viable of a method for most of us. Alright, so from there we have dart fletching with mithril darts. 35 extra hours will be saved, however you'll net a loss of 55 mil, which then ends up meaning that if you are able to make 1.6 mil or above pretty much, it is worth it to you to do that method. That still is pretty high for most people, but if you can actually exceed that barrier, then I would say that dart fletching with mithril darts is by far your best method. From there we have the broad bolt fletching. I obviously said as before, it is going to be 48 hours spent and you'll end up making 19 mil instead of losing an absurd amount of money. This will allow you to just make an overall decent amount of money, especially if you're a lower level. This is very viable. But the overall efficiency is, if you can't make 1.6 mil an hour, this method is the way to go. So some final comments that I just want to go through and look at. The overall efficiency is compared to the broad bolts. However, if you guys look at the difference between Addy and Myth, it is a 3-hour difference, and the profit that you will end up losing, or I guess the money you'll end up losing, will be 26 mil for those 3 hours. So if you can justify losing almost 7 to 8 mil an hour for those final 3 hours, I would say then Addy Darts is better for you. But I mean, to just add on another 3 hours and be able to actually save yourself a total of 26 mil, I would definitely recommend that. I don't feel as if with these stats there's any way that Adamant Darts are really efficient at all, but if you're obviously just a really good moneymaker, and you have the money to do it, it's beneficial for you. But I'd say more so to almost everyone in the game, Mithril Darts would be your way to go. And as for the lower levels, or people that can't really do Zulrah, I would say broad bolt method is definitely the way to go. Alright, so that'll be it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like. Also remember to recommend any skills you want to see me do in the future. I'm going to start with more just skills that have a plan as far as how to go through them, like cooking, fire making, stuff like that. Stuff like combat stats is very hard to go through and do because there are so many variables that you have to take into account. So I want to start small and we'll work bigger from there. So thank you guys for watching. But that is it for me today. So hope you guys have a wonderful day and peace. Also check out the Twitter in this video.